big news to share as entertainment reporter Derek Sante joins me on the show. Welcome to the newest episode of SDW.
Super Dario World!
It's a me,
Dario!
Woohoo! Let's go!
Okay, so first off, I need to clarify this. The Game of Thrones rewrite, the big Game of Thrones rewrite that I do every Monday will have to be moved to tomorrow. It's been pushed to tomorrow because I got an opportunity to interview my good friend Derek Sante, who I'll tell you a little bit more about him in a minute. We're going to speak for a really long time. So I'm pushing that to next Monday because, like I said, I got an opportunity and also need to share something. It's related. Last year, I got the opportunity to go to Comic-Con to do a press thing so that I could go interview a whole bunch of celebrities, a whole bunch of actors, a whole bunch of writers and producers for TV shows. And this year I'm going to be going back. I'm going back to Comic-Con. It's confirmed. I didn't want to say anything before because I wasn't sure, but now it is. It's confirmed. I will be back at Comic-Con and I will be sharing with you everything. Go to find me at Dario the Show on Instagram. I will be posting pictures up there. I will be posting videos. I will be sharing stuff on the podcast, stuff on my YouTube page. I will be sharing as much as I can. I'll also be sharing stories of how I embarrassed myself in front of people. It happens a lot. The things you encounter backstage are very, very interesting. But okay, so that's the big news. I'm very excited. I'm very pumped. I started watching a bunch of the shows. They told me like, hey, you might get this show or something. And so I started watching them or catching up on them. I'm really excited. I'm really hyped. I had a really busy weekend, but I had to start doing this. I had to. I couldn't help it. But okay, so for those of you, Derek Sante, he is an entertainment reporter, and he's the guy who hooked me up with the job. Well, or it worked. The point is I was working with him, and he taught me the things that I had to know, and he pointed me in the right direction. He's the guy that got the hookup with iHeartMedia, with everything. And so I'm very excited to talk about him. He knows a lot. He's been in a ton of red carpets events, at a ton of Comic-Cons, at a ton of any convention. So I'm very excited to talk to him. And but first, let me just give you a quick reminder that the podcast is now officially part of the show's network, the show's podcast network, so you can find it in the iHeartRadio app. Just type in "The Show Presents Super Dario World," or you can find it on iTunes, YouTube, and SoundCloud as Super Dario World Podcast. Everything right there. Like I said, mentioned before, at Dario the Show on Instagram. Comments, questions, and suggestions, right there. And don't forget, next Monday, tomorrow, not next Monday, tomorrow, we will return to our regular scheduled programming of the rewriting Game of Thrones. I know it's the first episode and it's already delayed, but it's an opportunity. I couldn't pass up, you know? But okay. Let's get started. So I'm joined right now with a guy who has one of the coolest jobs in the world, Mr. Derek Sante. Derek, thank you for joining me.
It's my pleasure.
Hey, how's it going, man? I haven't seen you in a year. What you been up to?
I know. It's been a busy year. Lots of traveling, lots of movies, lots of TV, video games, anime. You know, all those things that just take time out of other people's lives. I kind of just run towards. But I know a lot of people out there love them, and so that's why I do it. I do it for the people.
Man, it sounds rough. You're a martyr, man. How do you do it? How do you do it? Oh, but I think I should probably say this first. Where can everybody find you, or what it is you do, and where can people find you?
Sure. So I'm a film critic, reporter, entertainment reporter, TV, film, video games. You can find me on a couple of different networks. You can find me, of course, on some iHeart stuff as well as Sinclair TV online as well. And then I have my brand new site that I'm launching, which is reviewnation.net. And that's going to be kind of the place where I can kind of put it all together, plus my thoughts. Sometimes editors don't want my thoughts. They just want the celebrities, which is okay. I understand that. But sometimes I want to kind of get my thoughts out there on specific episodes or TV or different things that I think people should check out. So that's kind of why I'm putting it out there. And then anyone on Instagram, feel free to follow me on Review Nation.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, no, I think you have a pretty good insight on stuff. I mean, from the conversations that we've had, you have interesting takes on the things that we've discussed. So I don't.
It's just that with content these days, especially editors, sometimes all they want is a celebrity, and they don't. You know, they to get to a point where they want specific, like, ingrained stuff, talking about specific episodes. Like if I want to go off on, the final episode of Doom Patrol, which is on DC Universe, that's something that some editors just won't care about. it's not high enough on their register. But I just got to find more editors who like that kind of stuff, I guess.
True. And also, so I like that you're doing your own thing. That's kind of what I started doing with my own podcast, is like, you know what? If you ain't going to give it to me, I'm going to make it myself, you know? It's,
For sure, yeah.
Can't take that away from me. I got creative control.
Heck yeah, that's the way to go. That's the way you want to go. And that's the beauty of technology and the way the world's working now, is if you can do it, you have a good voice, and you can create a following in some way, then, that's it. More power to you. Yeah,
true. When are you going to start your own podcast? Because the things that you've seen or have gone through, I'm guessing you have more than enough great stories, because you're backstage. You get to be back there. You get to a lot of behind the scenes stuff, right?
Oh no, trust me. I have tons of great stories. I have things where I've almost got punched by celebrities, or I've talked to people, and I've messed around. And that time I almost got punched was not my fault; it was their fault. And there was a couple other things too. Like I can give so much in depth about so many things because I cover so many things. And then right now I'm planning on a great surprise at San Diego Comic-Con. That's what you just caught me doing right now. Is I'm talking to a big author of books who does a bunch of sci-fi books, and one of big celebs from a TV show a lot of you would know. He is a big fan of this author, but he never gets the chance to go down to the Comic-Con floor because of who he is. And so I'm bringing the author up to him so he can interview him. It's going to be a surprise, and I'll definitely share it with you afterwards. But right now, that's what I'm working on. Okay, so it's a big tease. Oh my God, sci-fi author. I'm going to have to throw in some guesses there eventually. But okay, is there any tease you can? Because for those of you who don't know, I worked with you on Comic-Con last year. It's one of the best gigs I've ever had. It's fantastic. It's extremely petrifying at first, but then it becomes a lot of fun. It becomes great to be behind the scenes and do the press stuff. But okay, so this year you teased me with this a little bit earlier that you have some stuff that you get some news that you can share. Sure. I mean, when it comes to Comic-Con, the number one thing that just came out right now is the Warner Brothers schedule of things to happen. So this year, we're going to have some great shows. Not only is it the final year for Arrow, the final year for Supernatural, so we're going to have great, send-offs for them. But we also have new shows coming in, which is Batwoman, which is coming in, Pennyworth, which is about Alfred Pennyworth, of course, with Batman's butler. And then we're also going to have some new stuff from DC Universe, which is Harley Quinn has a cartoon, and then Veronica Mars is going to hit Hulu, so she's coming back as well. That, along with a bunch of other returning, like The Flash, Legacies, Riverdale, Supergirl, Black Lightning, and I think Young Justice, things like that. So a lot of that stuff is coming back as well. So Warner Bros. Alone is going to bring a huge amount of people coming in. And then, I've already been approached by a couple other people, too, to talk to the cast of the new Amazon show, The Boys, which is about the superhero squad that keeps superheroes in line, kind of, I guess, starring Carl Urban. And I'm very excited for that one. And then, Kevin Smith, Jason Mewes are going to be there. They're going to be talking about the new Jay and Silent Bob they're doing. Yeah. And then plus, Jason Mewes actually directed a movie too. So he's going to be there kind of talking about that as well. So things like that, plus so much more is all coming in. We're still, we're a little bit under a month away from now, probably about 3.5 weeks away from San Diego Comic-Con. And that's when things start coming into play. And that's when we'll start to know. So there's a lot of stuff I already know. AMC has already approached as well. So we're going to be talking to cast of The Walking Dead, Nosferatu 4A2, I guess is the correct way to say it. Then we have the new Terror season, plus Fear of the Walking Dead, and what was the last one? Oh, Preacher, and a couple other ones too. So
are we getting the Sun? Tell me, are we getting the Sun?
I did not see the Sun in there right now.
Damn it.
And the reason is because I don't know if the Sun is made by AMC Networks or it's made by another network that's going to bring it. But I think someone else may bring the Sun. I'll keep you updated on that.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. No, because right now I'm neck deep in Red Dead Redemption. So when you mentioned the AMC stuff, I saw the Sun, and I saw the pilot, and it looks amazing. So that's one that I'm probably most excited about that I just started seeing.
Right.
And
that's one of those things that, you get excited for a lot of these things. And the cool thing is San Diego Comic-Con, when they show stuff, it's usually ready to come out within the year or so. Sometimes they'll show stuff that the big stuff isn't coming out till next year before July of some sort. So it's within a year time. Sometimes they show us TV shows and they'll say, okay, this show's going to come out, and then you won't see it actually air for 2 years. So it kind of throws you off, and your excitement level is already like, mwah. It was like that for that show, The Passage. I saw that like a year and a half, almost 2 years before it came out. And by the time it came out, I'm like, I just forgot. I think I have to rewatch everything. Like, I don't know what's happening now. So that happens a lot in the TV world. One of the other things that's big about the San Diego Comic-Con, though, is the fact that, even though Warner Brothers Television is bringing in a ton of TV, Warner Brothers Films will not be there. So we will not see any Warner Brothers films in Hall H, which is what everyone expects, but is not going to happen.
Yeah, that's very disappointing. When you said Warner Brothers, I was about to say, weren't they not showing up this year? But okay, at least TV's there. That's something. And they have some.
TV's a monster. They're probably the big. They're up there with the biggest amount. They're definitely the biggest names that are bringing in for this. The secondary would probably be Sci-Fi brings a lot of shows. Fox Television brings a lot, but that's more animation. So we're going to see a lot of these things kind of start to peak up and pop out. But yeah, it is sad that we won't get to see Warner Brothers. We won't get to talk about
the new Batman.
A couple of those things. The new Batman. Well, they probably don't even have anything yet. They might be doing costume fittings as we speak. Probably is that where we're at right now. Probably, but Wonder Woman 1984, which is the artwork looks amazing. And if you've seen the new poster, which I recently gave out at a different Comic-Con
with the golden armor
poster. The gold armor with all the psychedelic colors and everything. Like when you look at it and you try just to garner it, like it really feels like they're going for Wonder Woman's Ragnarok, like they did with Thor Ragnarok, kind of just going out there and doing what they want to do with their own story, which is good for Warner Brothers because we know they cannot connect the dots when it comes to their own universe somehow. It always seems to fall apart. As much as we want all the Justice League and all these other things to happen, like they just keep on revamping. Like how many different Jokers are we going to go through? How many different Batmans are we going to go through before we can get something like a long decade run like Avengers and Marvel did? But that's going to be up to whoever's in the top there and whoever's in control of those things. So, we can hem and haw, but until they kind of figure that out, we'll just have to suffice with the fact that they know what they're doing when it comes to Warner Brothers Television.
Yeah, true. I'm very happy with the Arrowverse. I'm very happy. I don't know why a lot of people make fun of me because I love the CW shows. I love Supernatural. Yeah. I love Riverdale. I love all those shows, and people just keep making fun. I'm like, why do you watch those? Because they're great TV. It's compelling. It's very interesting. Yeah. And the cast is super nice. A lot of them are
good. And don't get me wrong. I mean, when you've had this many seasons, there's a lot of stuff where I have issues with things too, because they a lot of them redo the same.
A lot of fillers
issues in those shows. Like you get a lot of the same things over and over again. I have a joke with Jared Padalecki from Supernatural about so how many times are you going to get caught and tied up to a chair this season and beat up? He's like, I don't know, man. We'll have to see what happens because he's definitely the John McClane of the whole thing. It's just he's got to get beat up a lot and then he can come back and they'll survive somehow. And then I talked to Jensen Ackles from the same show, and I'll say, so who's going to die and come back? He's like, no one ever dies.
Yeah.
No one ever dies. Well, we'll all be fine. Well, I mean, as you saw this season, his dad came back, in a time warp kind of thing. But the same thing with a lot of this stuff too. The Flash, who in the movies can pretty much stop time, but somehow still gets caught by like a slow punch from a robot for some reason, and you're like, why is this happening? So there's things that you have to kind of just fall into. But they still do a good job. Batwoman's going to be interesting to see. Truth be told, my favorite show right now in the DC universe is either going to be I love Supernatural, but I think Doom Patrol. If anyone's seen it in DC universe, it's pretty awesome.
Really?
So
I haven't subscribed there. What would you recommend about it, or just keep going?
Well, and the issue with the DC universe is the fact that they led it with Titans, which was not awesome. It was kind of really, really dark for the characters, especially, leading off of Titans, Teen Titans Go and all that, high octane anime fun. And now they went to a very, very dark place with Titans characters. So that kind of threw me off. I wasn't really happy with the storyline. So that kind of threw me off. But Doom Patrol itself is a great show. It's a sarcastic, kind of messed up superhero team with all their issues. And they curse, and they have all these other things that go on. And, there's some great stuff there with Matt Bomer is one of the characters, as well as Brendan Fraser plays a robot man in there named.
Brandon Fraser is in TV, George of the Jungle.
Yeah,
dude,
yeah.
I gotta watch that show. I'm sold.
Yeah. And he also shows his, like, when flashbacks into his human body form, you see him there too. So he's still around. He's doing great. And truth be told, this is great. I mean, if you read some of the stories about him, that's kind of the thing I'm sad about. He got taken advantage of a couple of different ways and some other stuff, and so he kind of pulled himself away to do other things with his life. But he's slowly coming back, and I think he's fun in this film. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's a little puffy. I mean, he's a little bit older. It's the way it is.
Yeah.
No one outside of like Tom Cruise can hold the body physique for 30 years straight. So that's just the way it is.
Yeah, but Tommy's insane.
Yeah, well, that's who he is. And speaking of which, that's something we kind of are looking forward to too. We haven't got a full confirmation of what to expect, but Top Gun Maverick looks to be coming to Comic-Con too. So he might be that big huge celeb that comes that no one knows for sure. Like when they brought Harrison Ford for Star Wars, and then they brought him back again for Blade Runner. So there's things like that. We can bring big celebrity you wouldn't expect to see there. We might also see Will Smith with Gemini Man, and
that looks great.
Marvel TV, yeah. So and then of course Marvel TV will be going this year too. So while Warner Brothers is backed out, Marvel is going to come in, and they're probably going to show us a lot of great stuff, including what they have plans for the Eternals and Black Widow and a couple other things too. So we'll have to see how that all shakes out. So there's a lot of stuff still to come. This is going to be a pretty great year. This is one of those events that still holds true, and this says something about Comic-Con, especially since the fact that a month after this is D23, which is the Walt Disney huge convention promoting their own stuff.
Mm-hmm. It's the first one, right?
This isn't the first one. They've had this before. They've had this many times, but they have it every couple of years. It takes a couple of years, and they kind of travel around sometimes too. And so it was in Anaheim 2 years ago, a couple of years ago too, and they'll travel to another city the next year. But it's back here, and it's one of those things that this is just a huge event for them. What they showed off. They brought in all the Avengers for Infinity War a couple of years ago, and they'll bring all the cast for all their TV shows. And this is just one big call for everything that Disney owns, which now is a lot. I mean, It's Pixar, it's Marvel, it's Lucasfilms and Star Wars.
They got Fox now, too.
Fox. Yeah, you got Fox, too. So they're already talking about Fox. And I already got some information that The Simpsons is going to be part of this D23. So they're going to ingrain Fox in there as soon as possible already. So it's definitely moving along very quickly. So we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, I hope they bring The Simpsons back to their former glory, because they faded out a lot. But they're still kicking, so if they can find a way to bring them back a little.
And they still get good numbers. And the funny thing is the fact that it's the syndication is what makes Simpsons amazing, because it goes to all the different places in the world. But truth be told, like, the show actually doesn't make that much money. I think it breaks even or even loses a little bit. But because of syndication, because of merchandising rights, they still make a ton of money. So that's why they want to keep them on the air, because at this point, it's no longer like it's more like a Transformers television show where, like, okay, Transformers is doing terrible. It doesn't make anything. Yeah, but our toy sales are up, 50%. Okay, then that's fine.
Yeah.
So we'll just lose money on the TV side as long as we can sell toys, as long as we can do this. And that's kind of the world we're living in with The Simpsons right now.
I mean, well, hopefully now that Disney has control, they'll do a good TV show, because, I mean, it's good that you're still making money on the back end, but you need to put on a good product on screen. That's the thing that I care the most about. Like, I don't care about my Bart Simpson mug if the Bart Simpson show sucks. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand that, and they're still trying. They're still doing different things, and some of these episodes in the last couple of seasons have been funny. It's a hit or miss for sure, but that's with a lot of shows too. Same thing with Family Guy. Family Guy's there's a lot of things that I'm kind of getting tired with Family Guy as well.
Well, that is true.
That's why we're moving towards new stuff like the Rick and Morty's, and I still love American Dad on TBS because their writing's actually pretty great if you still catch it. So there's things like that it's still fun. And also, once you start to recognize some of these shows, you'll notice that it kind of goes along with your demographic, age group, whatever else too. So that's what happens with a lot of these animated stuff. I know that everyone else is trying to create their own things, whether it's Adult Swim, aiming for different demographics, as well as TBS has Final Space, which is another show they're trying to do, which is their own version of Rick and Morty-ish. So there's a lot of stuff out there when it comes to animation where you have to kind of just find, where you fit in, and that's where they have the best cartoon for you.
Sure, and that's also why. If you stay long enough, you're gonna overstay your welcome. Sometimes that's what the meme thing is so popular. Either you die a hero, or you live long enough to become the villain. And
right.
The biggest example right now would be Game of Thrones. Like they just totally butchered at the end. So
right.
I don't know.
Well, and then that's another funny thing you brought that up is the fact that it looks like Game of Thrones is, even though it's ended, is going to do a victory lap in Hall H at Comic-Con.
A victory lap?
Is going to bring them. And I think it's going to be something simple. I don't think it's going to be insane. I don't think we're going to get Peter Dinklage or anything, but I think we'll get Kit Harington and probably George R.R. Martin and some other people. And it'll probably be during a whole HBO haul, so they're going to probably talk about Westworld. They're going to talk about a couple of their other shows too. And then they'll bring in, Game of Thrones and give them a nice little victory clap. Great job, guys. Even though people had issues with it, it's still a beloved show.
Yeah, it still gave us a bunch of really good seasons and it gave us really good episodes for a really long time. It was consistently good until the end. But the one thing I don't get is that why weren't they there last year? And so you don't come before your final season, but you're there after you're done. That seems a little weird.
HBO is always very weird. Sometimes they don't want to do a panel because they don't have enough, or sometimes you're in the middle of a season too. Don't forget that.
Oh.
So if you're in the middle of a season, especially with a show like that where you can't give away any answers, like what are you going to do? You're going to spend half the panel showing videos, the other half denying every question that comes your way. And so that's the problem with a lot of these things. When the show's in the middle of the season, they tend to step away from it. Right now we're in the middle of Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and we'll have to see if they actually ABC brings the cast to talk about this current season, because we're in the middle of it and they have more seasons to come. So it's one of those things, do they come in and try to answer where they are now, which always sucks as an interviewer, because now I'm asking a week-to-week question, not a next season question. Next season's always more fun. They can kind of have fun with it, talk a little bit about what they know, but they really have to tight-lip everything. Almost to the point of Doctor Who. Doctor Who has always been a tight-lipped show, no matter what, because of executive producers. But that's the same thing with a lot of these shows now. If we're in the season, they tend to not want to talk about it. So this one is going to be a victory lap, and it's going to be people asking, "Oh, so why did this happen? Or what's going to be happen here? Why can't we get a West of Westeros show instead, is what everyone wants to watch now, or something, So that's the issue, is that a lot of people are just trying to they want to have answers, but if you can't give them the answers, it's like, what's the use of going? You just show a video anyways, and that'll be fine.
I see your point. Okay. What was the hardest interview you've ever done? Because you've interviewed a whole bunch of people, and for those of you who don't know, you get around
Probably
3 questions.
thousands.
Yeah, you get about 3 questions per person, or at least for the big stars, right?
Right.
Okay, so who's been the hardest interview for you? Is it do
you mean by the person itself, or just the interview itself was just the messed up? I've been, if you talk about messed up interviews, I've been on red carpets where I'm literally pressed between 2 people yelling, trying to get somebody to stop to ask a question, because we have a red carpet that is 20 feet long. And we are all sideways with, 25 people next to each other and a camera over our shoulder trying to get all the stuff. And that's the way it happens sometimes. And so those things suck, as well as, you look at some huge ones like Disney loves huge red carpets. So that'll be like Pirates of the Caribbean, which will be 2 city blocks. And you're like, how is this a red carpet? And none of the celebrities will stop for you unless you're at the end, unless you're one of the big ones, E! Entertainment News, Access Hollywood, things like that, at the Ellen Show. That's when they'll put you in. But outside of that, they're like, nope, we don't care. Goodbye. So
I got 2 blocks to walk. Screw you.
Yeah. But as it comes to specific interviews, there are specific ones that I've had issues with. I've had a good one and a bad one with Jennifer Lopez. I've had a good one and a bad one with Josh Brolin. I've had there's a couple that are just weird. Michael Shannon's a very weird interview. He's an intense guy, but he doesn't it's like he doesn't hear the question you ask, so he's going to answer the question that's in his mind. And so there's a lot of things like that where you just don't know what's happening. I've been in front of actors or comedians who are so high on drugs, like you can see all the way into their skull because their irises are so open.
Oh wow!
I mean, they're so dilated. So there's things like that are like insane, and then you just have people who are just boring answers too. There's a lot of people who just give you the same boring answer, and that's when you as a interviewer or someone have to come up with a fun way to break them out of that, and that's what they hope for. I've interviewed Mark Wahlberg a bunch of times, but Mark Wahlberg can go into the monotone. Yeah, so my character is this and blank this and blank this. But if you ask him about his life as a kid or something he loved or how he would think, what the younger version of him would think of this or something like that, bam, same exact thing. Stallone is another one. Stallone is usually fun with interviews, but if you start with talking about the fact that, his writing, I mean, he wrote Rocky, he wrote a bunch of his stuff. This new Rambo, he's part writer too. So, I mean, there's things like that. You start with that, things they love, but they open up a lot more. And so that's kind of the lesson you learn as a interviewer or someone on the mic is you have to figure out a way to get
them excited.
Out of them. Yeah, you have to go through the door of what they like to get what you want, essentially, one way or the other. And that's my issue too. There's, I remember when when I first started, I used to call every celebrity by their name, which I no longer do because there's so many ways that you can mispronounce a name or say the name wrong or say something. So you automatically start on a wrong foot, which if you're using video, doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter anymore. I could have just put their name up right under their face and spelled it correctly thanks to IMDb, and I don't have to worry about saying, Cher Sharonin, correctly, or, different people like that. I could just put it there, done, and I'm right, and I don't have to worry about it, as opposed to doing it there and losing 30 seconds while the celebrity decides if they like you or not while you ask the follow-up question. So there's things like that definitely come up.
Okay, yeah, and I remember that was one of the first tips you gave me. Like, either call them by their character's name, or just if they have a hard last name, just go with the first one. Maybe just David. Or I'm joined by one of the stars of
names at all. I start with hello. If they're older than me, I start with sir, or I'll say I want to talk to you about this, or let's talk about this, or season 3, let's go. And so, like, I'll say those things to get away from the name, because the name serves me nothing. Like, it does nothing for me there. And some interviewers think that it beholds you to them, but that's not the way interviews work. You're talking to somebody for 5 minutes at most sometimes. That's not how a friendship goes for the rest of the world for a long time,
Yeah.
So you got to get away from that, and you have to go towards what you need to get out of the interview. You need to get some information about the next season. You need to get some information about the movie they're doing, which is coming out next year, and they just started, doing production on. Like, you need those things. You don't need them to be friends. If you have a time where you're doing I once did a 2.5 hour interview with Danny DeVito, where we were sitting on a couch. And that's something where I'm like, we were friends for a while after that.
Yeah.
So that's the way that kind of thing works. But if it's not that, then just get away from that and just look at how to both do your job, but also serve the people who are watching the video at the end. And that's what counts, because they don't care if you get a high five or a selfie with a celebrity. They care that you give them the information and the reason they clicked on your video. And so that's something that I try to instill into everyone who I work with is, serve what's on the end result of that camera, no matter what. So.
Okay. No, I see that. You gotta give them the meat of the information, or sound clips also. So one thing that I noticed when I was there is that sometimes they say you only have one question. You have time for one question. When that happens to you, what's your go-to? Or do you change it up with each person?
I change it up with each person depending on what I'm looking at. I also do a 2-part, one question too. So
you're a cheater. That's cheating.
No, but you know what though, and I need to get the most out of it too. I asked one question. I'm not going to keep on holding them, but I need them to give me enough stuff to make it worth a segment. Because a 20-second answer is a crappy video at the end on YouTube or on an article or something. So I need to essentially have a little bit more than that. I need to get something from them. So I need to start with, can you tell us about? I'll start with, if I don't know anything about the movie at all, I'll say, can you tell us about your character and, where we find him in this film? So that's an easy way for them to start talking about their character, what their character's life, and then where this character is found in this film and how they, kind of connect with the other characters. So that's a good way to do it. So I try to find a way to do those things so I get more content out of them, and it's still my one question, one way or the other. So that's kind of the way I do it. If I know what the show is about already and I know a lot of stuff, I'll try to be more pinpoint about these things. And, a good one is always, how do we start this season? What's changed for you, or what's changed for this character? And, what should we look forward to? And those are like it's almost like three questions in one. So that's a way for them to kind of go from there. And they kind of tick off each thing along the way, but it's still one breath, one question, essentially.
Okay. Yeah, no, 'cause I remember when I was there and they told us like 1-2 questions. And it was my first time. I was like, I'm going to go by the book. Every single rule they give me, I'm going to follow it, right? And I just
you have to read the room, man. Read the room. That's all that matters. Because sometimes the publicists will say one question, and then they'll be over on their phone over there for like 3 or 4 minutes. You're like, I'm going to use it until she looks at me and gives me the eye, and then that's when I say, oh, you got to go.
Yep.
And that's when I let them move. And that's what happens.
Dude, so some of the other reporters that were going there, they're like 6-7 questions. I was like, son of a bitch, I could do that. That's a thing. Yeah. So now I know.
You just need to pay attention and pay attention to the publicists, because they're the one.
They control the time.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
They control the time. They control how much time you have with it. And if they're not paying attention, then you keep on interviewing until they do a wrap-up signal, or they look at you and catch your eye, and then you say, okay, that was the last question, and you let them go too. I mean, there's sometimes too when the celebrity or the person you're interviewing goes off on a rant, and you ask one question, and it's like a 6-minute answer, and you're like, this isn't my fault. I do what I can here. Yeah. And that's when they have to kind of be exasperated with their celebrity, not with you.
Yeah, well, what are you gonna do? Excuse me, sir. Shut up. You have to leave now. Like, no, you're not gonna do that. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. That only happens if if it's the very, very, very end of a red carpet timing, where they're like, you need to be on stage right now. Like, you're 30 seconds away from need to be on stage, and so they'll say, okay, we got to leave. We're sorry, we have no more, and they'll just stop right in the middle of the interview and cut it out. It's happened a couple of times. It doesn't happen as much. They tend to try to stop it before it gets there and have a little buffer. But sometimes celebrities late and they're trying to fit as much as they can in. So you just do what you can,
Yeah, I hear that. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah. So in all your years, who's been your favorite interview?
Probably Danny DeVito's up there for me. Definitely. He's one of my favorite interviews.
Was this pre or post Sunny?
This was during Sunny. This was, how long has Sunny been on? 12 years now? 11 years now?
Yeah, it's been a minute.
Yeah, I think this was 4 to 5 years into Sunny.
Oh wow!
So this is a while ago,
dude. And
so this was a great interview. I went up to his. He was actually at a convention in Las Vegas, and I have to be there too. And noticed he was going to be talking at a Teamster convention because of his film Hoffa, which he did, of course, Jimmy Hoffa, Teamsters, all that stuff. And so he was going to talk. And so I found out, and I messaged his publicist, and I said, hey, he's going to be there. Do you think I'll have a little time for me to stop by? I'd love to talk about Always Sunny. At the time, he had a horror film production company called The Blood Factory, I believe is what it was called. Mm-hmm. So he was promoting that too. And so yeah, sure. And so they called. He said, sure, come on up. He's just going to be sitting up there anyways. And so the next day it took me and a cameraman. We went up there, knocked on the door, and Rhea Perlman answers, of course, Carla from Cheers. And she's awesome. She's like, oh, hey, how you guys doing? Oh, he's gonna be over on the couch over there. You guys want something to drink? And we're like, yeah, we'll get some water. She got some water. She goes, okay, I'm gonna go play some slots or something. So she went downstairs, and then she goes, almost go downstairs because he tends to talk a lot. So it'll be for a while. And so we set up on this little couch, and he's there in his little black pants and his in black socks, and we're just sitting there. And
he's not wearing any shoes.
Not wearing any shoes. No, he's a big fan. I'm sure follow him on Twitter. He's got a thing called Troll Foot, which he takes pictures of his little foot against like different things. I could just put it against things or whatever. So, but it's so he just had the shoes on, and we sat down, and before you know it, 2 hours pass, and you're just like, this is awesome. This is so much fun. We were getting into everything. He gave us a bunch of insights and things we weren't supposed to know yet, and it was just a lot of fun. I had a great time. So that's definitely one of those ones where I've had a good time interviewing him. I've had a good time interviewing, The Rock a couple different times.
Oh, wow.
He's usually a pretty fun one as well. I once did actually a phone interview with Peter Jackson that ended up going for 50 minutes because the other people who were supposed to be interviewing weren't answering the phone or connecting. So they just said, keep us on the line. So I just kept on talking to him nonstop about movies and what he thinks and all these different choices. And it's crazy fun if you ever get a chance to do it. That's why even though it's awesome to be on camera with a mic, the guys who get a lot of fun and make the most connections are the people who do the write-ups and the stories. They follow a star for a full day, and they get to kind of see what the star is really like, which can be good, but is also dangerous if the star is a moron or if they're vapid or something, because that'll come in the article too. So there's things like that, that you do it. So, I mean, and I've heard some amazing stuff. The one I've always wanted to interview, and hopefully that happens this year, is Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise, when you go do a junket, which is where you go to interview them, you sit across from them, everything's set up already. You'll come in and he'll walk over to you and he'll shake your hand and he'll know your name. He'll be like, Derek, it's a pleasure to meet you. I'm glad you come out. Hope you enjoyed the film. And then you'll both sit down, you'll talk. You're like, I'm friends with Tom Cruise. Like, it's awesome.
Dude.
So, yeah, and so that's one of those things where I've heard people say those things. And so that's what happens. And that's just one of those things where, it depends on the person too. Tom Hanks has been an amazing guy. He's always awesome. Keanu Reeves was fun too. I've talked to him a couple times in the last year. So there's things like that
dude,
you meet these people and you're like, this person is amazing. This person's awesome. I remember Tom Hanks. I was in an award show. I took my sister because she wanted to meet a bunch of celebrities. So Tom Hanks is being rushed out, bunch of security, and he's about to go by me and my sister, and he just gets stopped for half a second. And I say, Mr. Hanks, my sister's a huge fan. Would you mind taking a picture with her? He comes over, puts his arm around my sister, and he just looks at me and goes, snap away, good sir. And I took a picture with her, and she was just so happy. He's just the nicest guy in the world. Like, he delivered on everything he was and everything that you would think he would be. So, there's things like that you just enjoy them more. So that's really where those things come into play, But then, there's times too when people are just artistic or they don't, they're hard to deal with. And, there's the Joaquin Phoenixes, and it's kind of hard. Jonah Hill is a little hard, but I think that's because people think he's shy. I don't know. But there's certain people that are hard to interview for sure. But those people I mentioned are definitely, good times. So.
Yeah, no, dude, that Tom Cruise thing is nuts. I've never heard that. He knows the people by name. Like, Tom Cruise is on the level that he doesn't have to know.
When he lets people out, I'm guessing his there's a list, and so there's a lady there he'll probably tell them the name of the next person coming in.
Yeah, but I mean, he takes the time to learn your name. Like, that's something.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. That's quality. That's customer service is what that is.
True.
And so that's how that comes into play, and that's why he's a beloved icon one way or the other.
True. Do you want him to fight Justin Bieber?
No, there's no reason to. Why would he? I mean, he gains nothing by fighting Justin Bieber. So he beats Justin Bieber, and everyone goes, "Yeah, I kind of guessed that." Or he lost, and then Justin Bieber gets to be a little douche about it for I don't know how long. So there's things like that where I'm just like, no, there's no reason. There's nothing to gain from that. He doesn't gain anything from it. There's nothing he needs from it. He's already the number one star in the world. What does he want to give this little guy a spotlight for,
True. That is, consistently, he has been the biggest star in the world. Because, I mean, Will Smith was in competition, but he fell off hard for a while. It looked like he might be coming back with Aladdin and Gemini Man. I'm super excited for Gemini Man, but he took a hard fall. I can't think of anybody else who's on the level of Tom Cruise consistently. The Rock right now, maybe, but not consistently. He's still kind of a new thing.
No, but he's still pretty beloved throughout the world, no matter what. So there's a certain factor where you're still loved, no matter what, by a huge population, and that's where Tom Cruise. Because Tom Cruise has put a couple stinkers here or there along the way, but at the end of the day, he's still, Tom Cruise, and you can't beat that. So, and I've had this conversation with many people before about what a true hard celebrity A is. if Tom Cruise is a celebrity A, then or he has to be a celebrity A plus, because even though you have celebrity A's, are they his level? There's different levels to those things too. So when you talk about being a B celebrity, you're like, well, if he's an A, these people are B's. These people are B's, and then these people are C's, and so it kind of just water falls down. And so that's one of those things that you have to kind of really judge on. But he's definitely one of the biggest, easily of anyone out there. And so that's definitely one of those things that when he does something, it's world renowned, and that's the definition of his name will sell a movie.
True.
Having the name Tom Cruise in a movie automatically makes that movie a bigger movie.
He could be
just the way it is.
He could be an ice cream man. I'm still gonna go watch the damn movie. It's he's that likable. So yeah, no, I hope we get him this year. I hope you get for him to know your name. Like, Derek, how's it going? Nice to meet you. That would be awesome.
I will. I've gone through a bunch of those celebs, and I don't think I have anyone else who I'm like crazy would love to meet. The only other one I ever had would have been Robin Williams, and unfortunately, I was in a room with him, but I never got a chance to actually meet him because he was kind of surrounded by people.
Yeah.
But I've never got a chance to actually interview him, and so that's one of those ones that kind of throws you off for sure.
Did you ever get starstruck by anybody?
Not for a long time. It's been a long time since I've been starstruck by anybody. There's only a couple people who deliver that like level of like, oh my God, that person is like a star. I mean, there's times when even with like when it comes to like beauty and people who are like crazy about, oh, that person's the hottest person, this one's whatever. I mean, I've met Megan Fox, and I met Olivia Wilde, and I met who's Justin Timberlake's wife right now? I forget. For some reason I blank.
Jessica Biel.
Jessica Biel, and they're all beautiful women. Don't get me wrong, but then I met and I just went blank.
Where was she in, or where was he in, or
Underworld, leading Underworld.
Kate Beckinsale.
Kate Beckinsale. Kate Beckinsale is the closest you will find to a princess in this world. She just has this like bearing, beautiful kind of look to her that's just like insane. And don't get me wrong, I'm really mad that Pete, whatever his name is, Pete Davidson was dating her, which is just the most horrible thing ever. It's like putting peanut butter and pickles together. I just don't understand. But let's just get away from that whole idea. But there are certain people that are still like that surprise me by how cool they are. But I don't think I have anything left along those lines for me, which is fine because it allows me to kind of get what I need to get, but also have fun with everything too. Because if you're too uptight, you won't be able to have fun and be loose when you talk to someone, because they're just somebody too. They're just another person as well. And so it's best not to fanboy it up, because fanboys don't get a chance to ask a lot of questions because they're too busy fanboying. And so that's how that works.
It's weird. Yeah. People blank out. It's really funny. I remember a friend of mine told me, I've known her for years. She's a perfectly reasonable human being, smart girl, normal from A to Z, everything, normal girl. Yeah. She said when she was out in Comic-Con, she saw Ian Somerhalder from the Vampire Diaries walking on the street, and so surrounded by security, but she was in his path, so she got to touch him and something. And she says that her mind turned into mashed potatoes. She could not get a word out. She was just like, no, I love you. No. And Ian was really nice. He just like took, because she was grabbing him. Like, you can't leave. Like, no. And so he very nicely just grabbed her by the hand, took it off. Was like, it's great meeting you, and just kept going. And I was like, but I know you. You're a reasonable person. Why couldn't you get a word out? Like,
right.
Yeah. Like, so... that was one of my big concerns, doing when I first started doing like the interview stuff. Like, will that happen to me? Will my brain turn into mashed potatoes? Fortunately, it didn't. Yeah, at least I don't think it did.
Well, I started in radio too. So I did a lot of interviews, and I met a lot of different miscellaneous celebrities, and they ramped up definitely. Like there's definitely years where they ramped up to huge celebrities, and so. Because of that, it kind of got me ready. And then once you get a chance to kind of spend some time with them, you just get to see that they're regular people too. And don't get me wrong, there are very eccentric regular people. Like I couldn't imagine a Tom Cruise day or trying to hang with a Johnny Depp day or different things like that. So there's things like that which I'm like, I'm sure it's insane and weird and everything. I would have given anything to spend 1 week with Prince.
Oh,
all
wow.
the stories that come from him. So there's things like that. But at the same time, you have to kind of be like, they're regular people. It's just that some of these regular people don't live in the same reality as you because they've been famous for so long. Tom Cruise has been famous for so long. Prince has been famous for so long. Michael Jackson was famous for so long. Like, they don't remember what it's like not to be this thing
Or to be told no.
Upon, that gets whatever they want, that can make anything happen, and so that's a crazy thing. And so that's why that's why you have to kind of step back a little bit, and you have to kind of just be yourself and do what you can, and just kind of try to read the room when you talk to them, to see where they are and who they are too. So
that's awesome. Well, now if I was excited for Comic-Con before, I'm super excited now. And before we wrap things up, you did like a press thing for Child's Play, right? The upcoming Chucky movie.
Yeah, that was actually at San Diego Comic-Con's sister event, which is WonderCon in Anaheim. And so that was a little bit earlier this year. I got a chance to talk to Aubrey Plaza, Gabriel Bateman, who played the mom and son, and then Lars and Tyler, who are the director and the writer of the films. And I have to say that, it's a lot of fun talking to them. Of course, unfortunately, it was just barely announced that Mark Hamill was the voice, so he wasn't there. But I got to talk to them about that. Aubrey was great. She and Gabriel had a prank war going on, and she tried to scare him. He tried to scare her, and he ended up winning because, if I remember correctly, she was hiding in the back of a car waiting for him to come out, but then he had to do a little bit more work, and so she was under a hot blanket for an hour before he actually came out. So she ended up losing that prank war. But I also talked to her about Legion. So the new season of Legion is coming up very soon as well on FX. And so we get the final season, which is only 8 episodes. And if anyone's ever watched the show Legion, you know how deep and crazy and weird this show is. And so to only have 8 episodes to kind of encapsulate everything is just mind-blowing. And so we kind of talked about that as well. So those were a couple of things when it came to Child's Play, which just came out this weekend. So if you guys had a chance to watch it, I definitely recommend watching these interviews as well as the trailer. You already watched the movie, so you need the trailer, but watch the interviews. But if you haven't, it's another way to kind of get interested in maybe going to see the theater. Dude,
the interviews are very interesting, and do you mind if I play like a little clip of it? This is going to be okay. Aubrey Plaza, and I believe. Oh, I think you asked the question in the clip, so I'm just going to play it.
What was it like being the on-screen mom to this young gentleman?
Well,
did your motherly instincts come out?
My motherly instincts came out in the form of trying to scare him at all times. We got into a terrible prank war that I lost over and over again, unfortunately, because he's very good at scaring me, and I'm not very good at scaring him. So I learned that as a mom, you always fail.
Okay, so she kind of mentions what you said before.
Right.
Watching the clip, Aubrey Plaza is she a very awkward person? She looks really kind of uncomfortable, but trying to be cool about it.
It is awkward. It's one of those things where some people kind of like, and I've interviewed so much. I interview her pretty much every year at Sundance. I think I've interviewed her like 12 to 15 times already.
So she should be familiar with you. You're kind of like a distinguishable guy.
And she does remember me when we started talking. But the problem is, it's someone who is awkward, but they also want to
be fun.
They want to like have fun, but they don't know how to cross. It's like they're trying to cross between this little crevice, this little crevice. So they have one foot on each side, and so they kind of lean both ways a little bit. And because she's cute and she is funny, it works for her, and that's just the way she is. And so people think that her deadpan face and the way she does stuff is part of her, demeanor, part she does. But I think it's just part of her psyche. It's just who she is. And she's probably a lot more awkward about stuff than not. And then she knows what she likes, and she'll kind of aim at those things too. So there's definitely times when she's just being herself, and there's probably other times when she's just trying to play with people and do stuff too. But anyone who's a fan of Parks and Rec as well as some other stuff knows that she got that gig just because of her personality as a whole, which is what you see now. So there's definitely a lot of Aubrey Plaza in every character she does, but she is different in the characters too. She is an actress. This is her role as a mom, which is different than she's done before. Lenny in Legion is a lot different than who she really is. It's a little weird and kind of off kilter, but it's not the somber kind of stone-faced Aubrey a lot of people see. So that's kind of what you get with Aubrey. And trust me, I have a ton of friends who are in love with her just because of her personality as a whole. They have all this imagination about her being, the fun, sarcastic, somehow gettable girlfriend that just would never happen for them. And that's just one of those things that the people like about her. And I think she earned it. She's a great person, and hopefully she'll keep on doing well. She's made a bunch of movies too. She's producing things, so I'm a big fan of hers, and I hope she continues to do well. So.
What I got from the clip, 'cause it's fun. You get to see the moment where she's thinking of an answer and stuff.
Right.
I like how you can see she looks like a nervous person, but it doesn't stop her. Like you can see the uncomfortableness, but it doesn't stop her. She still goes for it. So it made me like her more. Just from that clip, it's like, wow, this chick's really cool, because you can tell that she's not letting like her fears stop her. Like, she went for it. Like she's a movie star because of it.
Sure. And and that's the thing. Like, there's a lot of great people out there who their personalities come out a lot differently. If you look at Chris Pratt, her TV husband, the same exact thing. He is a dork in real life, and guess what? He's a dork on film too, and it works for him.
Yeah,
he could pull out some other characters too, but going back to being the dork is one of those things he can kind of just pull, and you love him for it, and that's one of the things you do enjoy about him. So. Because
they're legitimate. They're not fake. Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna play a clip from the kid that I just thought it was really funny because of a word he dropped. So this is Gabriel Bateman. All right.
Okay.
What's it like to be this boy who has hopes and dreams of having an amazing doll?
Right.
They kind of go the other way,
Yeah, well, Andy's really introverted and insecure, so he doesn't really have very many friends. He's kind of a lonely kid. So when he gets Chucky, that's kind of his first friend. So there's a really great emotional bond that Andy struggles with as he has to do certain things to try and get rid of Chucky. So it was a really nuanced role and a very nuanced relationship between the two of them that was really fun to portray.
I love that he dropped the nuance. Like, it's a very nuanced guy. I loved it. I don't know why.
And that's one of those. Trust me, I think I chose taking it back a little bit too. And I think about it, and that word too. Some words shouldn't come out of kids' mouths unless they're like. But some of these kids have been in the industry for 6 or 7 years since they were 3 or 4. And you're like, okay, I guess you do get it,
Uh-huh.
I interviewed Haley Joel Osment this year about for something else, but he's been in movies forever. Sixth Sense was a long time ago, and he's still been in movies a long time. So there's things like that where you're like, you grew up in the industry, you grew up having to learn these words because they were big people words that you need to know, and this is part of your job is talking and saying adult things to adults when you just want to be a kid and go out and play. So that's one of those things that you kind of just go, okay, well, let's see how you good, and hopefully you turn out well. That's the goal.
Yeah, no. No, one of the things that I got from the Gabriel interview that I thought was really funny is that in that clip he says that his character is very introverted, doesn't have many friends, and at the end of the interview he says, "Oh yeah, well I don't have that many friends either." So you kind of feel bad for the kid, like, "Oh man, you're stuck in a bubble. Like, go out, have friends." It's weird, but
but that's unfortunately it's just kind of the way it works out. If you don't have time to go and do play dates as a kid because you're on a roll call to go do some video shoots, and then you can't go to regular school because you have to go shoot a TV show for the CW somewhere or something, and now you don't get to go to regular school, so you're taught in a trailer. What are you going to do then? How are you going to get away? That's why they try to find a way to let these kids be real and to have fun. But a lot of times it could be, the Michael Jackson effect where you don't get a chance to be anything outside your own family and outside of the cameras and the lights and everything. So, but I think that's something that has changed a lot since his time, but it's still somewhat an issue one way or the other, just because, kids thrive on experiences. And if they don't have all the experiences necessary, they kind of go out with a gun with only a couple bullets in it,
Yeah.
To use a bad metaphor.
It made sense. It applies. We're not sensitive here. So,
right.
well, is it harder for you to interview somebody who doesn't really have that much on the resume? 'Cause, for me, I found it fun because they had like a lot of energy. They're excited to be there. I remember it was the lead in Deadly Class. He hadn't really done much. I forget his name, but he was super excited to be here. He was some of the most engaging interviews that we had were with newcomers. But for you, I mean, there's not much you can ask them about. Or what's your go-to when they literally have nothing in their IMDb that you can go off of?
Well, and that's where you just kind of go off the show itself and the character itself, which is all they can talk about as well. I mean, if you're at an event, you can talk about the event itself. You can say, what do you if it's a Comic-Con, you can ask what they're a geek or a nerd about. If it's a film festival like Sundance or Toronto Film Festival, you can ask them, were they going to get a chance to watch some of the art house movies, or have they ever made their own art house movie on a cell phone or something like that. So there's definitely things like that you have to kind of just come up with. You always look at IMDb and things too, and ways to connect. So it is hard, but the character is usually where you jump off from, and you kind of go from there.
Okay, but your goal is to connect with the person in the way that you can get the most content out of them.
That's right. Well, that's the whole reason we're there too. Like I said, a lot of the stuff we're doing is for everyone at the end. It's for the people who are listening to a podcast, or the people who are watching a video. And the fact that I have excitement is great, but their excitement from what I'm creating is what I'm aiming for. And unless I'm doing a show like Man versus Food, where I get excitement trying to eat a bunch of food, then I can enjoy that too, and they can try to enjoy me and trying not to, throw up or something. But, that's one of those things that because of the way it is, I'm not the star in this. Even some of the celebrities who are out there, good interviewers know that they're not the star in this unless they created that persona. A Ryan Seacrest is very different than a Howard Stern, to put it bluntly.
Yeah.
Howard Stern will definitely talk about himself whenever he gets the opportunity to kind of create and put himself in there. But Ryan Seacrest definitely pushes a lot of stuff onto the person himself when he interviews, and so that's kind of what you'll see when you see the different interview styles. Is
that who you're modeled after?
Who?
Oh, Seacrest?
Seacrest? A little bit, and the reason is because I used to be an executive producer for his radio show in L.A. for a while. And so that's why I kind of took some of that from him. But there's a lot of other great interviewers that I've seen over the years, and I've seen what works and I see what doesn't. And then from there on, it's just experience, doing it for so long that I know what I need to do and how I need to do it. And then I'm also really good at reading people, which is very important too, because you need to read how, what kind of personality they have, what kind of state of mind they're in right now too. So there's things like that.
Okay, I get it. So I see your point. So again, for those of them who missed it at the beginning, where can they find the videos for the interviews and everything and all your stuff?
Well, you can find some stuff on iHeartMedia. You can, of course, find some stuff at Sinclair Broadcast, which is loads of TV stations online. And then you can also find it on my own personal website, which I just barely launched, which is reviewNation.net. ReviewNation.net is the website. And then if you want to find anything on social media, you can follow me at Review Nation on Instagram, Facebook, things like that, or at Derek Sante, which is my name. And that's about it. I'm out there all over the place. And I'm posting all the information I can when I get it.
Is there anything else they're going to do before Comic-Con, or is it just all Comic-Con from here on in?
It's funny you ask, but in a week I'm going to be over in Los Angeles covering the Anime Expo.
Oh, wow. How does you've done that before?
I have done that before. So it's all the different anime shows, which is, of course, huge. And we're going to get a bunch of video and photos of cosplayers and things like that. I only go for a couple of days, but it's good just to go check it out and see where the world is and see what's happening with it. Yeah, there's so much money and interest in anime and how big it is now,
Yeah, the industry is exploding here in America. It's
of course,
wild.
With Netflix and Hulu especially, who have a ton of that content on there, in addition to other big like online networks that are anime driven, like one called Crunchyroll, another one called Funimation. So there's definitely a lot of content out there and a lot of people who love it, who are a part of this world. And so I'm going to go out there and check that stuff out. And then a week after San Diego Comic-Con, I'm back in Las Vegas because it's the Star Trek convention.
Oh, wow.
So I'm going to be covering that the week after as well. So It's still a pretty busy time right now. Going to August, and then the beginning of September is the Toronto Film Festival. So things are moving, definitely. So.
Yeah, super busy, man. Like I'm good. I'm very happy for you, man. You put in the hard work, and you get a lot of content. So yeah, everybody go check out his site. He's a great guy. He was extremely nice to me when I met him. We look forward to seeing you again at Comic-Con. Derek, thanks for joining me, man.
My pleasure. Thank you very much. And feel free to follow me, guys. And then, of course, check out those interviews with Aubrey Plaza, too. She's always awesome. She's doing a big press run for Child Play right now. So anyone who's in love with her is very happy right now.
Yeah, and I will put a link of your website on the Rock 105.3 website. Follow along with this show. So if anybody wants to see the videos there or just go straight to your website, they can check them out. And you got a bunch of other stuff up there, too, right?
I do indeed, yeah.
Awesome. Derek, thanks for joining me, man. Good luck with the Anime Expo.
Will do. Have a good day.
Thanks.